AITA for revealing I'm secretly wealthy after my brother mocked me? I am Nicole. I am 30 years old, and I work in investments at a large international firm. This is not a story. It is my life. But before all that, I was the daughter who was in the way. I was the fourth. My parents already had 2 sons, Brandon and Logan, and a daughter, Taylor. When I arrived, they were already in the we are done mode. It was like their energy for being parents ran out with me. There are families where the youngest is the spoiled one, the one everyone carries and coddles. Well, not me. I got the leftovers. When Brandon needed clothes, they bought him new clothes. When Logan needed a computer for school, sure, why not? They bought it for him without thinking twice. Taylor wanted dance classes and then painting classes, and they happily paid for it like it was nothing. When it was my turn, it was another story. There is Brandon's jacket. It still holds up. Use your sister's old cell phone. It still works. Logan does not use that calculator anymore. There it is. You take it. The worst part was not even the used things. It was the treatment, the attention, the excitement that they saved for the others but seemed to lose when it came to me. When Brandon made the high school varsity team, they threw a party, took photos, and had food. My mom was so excited, talking to the aunts as if her son had won a national award. When Logan was accepted into the university he wanted, it was the same. Our son. We are so proud. My parents invited the family over and showed off. When Taylor exhibited a couple of paintings in a small gallery, my mom organized a gathering and took everyone to see her daughter's talent. When I was 15, I won the state level of a math competition. I brought my diploma home happily, my hands shaking a little from excitement. I showed it to my parents, hoping for even just a hug. My dad did not even look up. Ah, that is good. And my mom, with the same tone you use to ask someone to pass the salt, told me, "That is great, my love. Hey, can you help your sister with her algebra homework?" By the time I was 16, I understood how things were. No one was going to give me anything. If I wanted something, I was going to have to get it myself. I got a job after school at a local sandwich shop, one of those places where you spend your whole shift standing making sandwiches, serving customers, and cleaning up. They paid minimum wage, but it was mine. For the first time, I felt like I had something that truly belonged to me. The first thing I bought with my own money was a cell phone. Not a luxury one, but a simple new one that worked and was not shattered like the one I had inherited. My parents even bragged about me working. Look at Nicole, so independent. She is very mature for her age. They said it as a compliment, but I knew what it meant. It was their nice way of saying, "That is great. Now we do not have to worry about her." When I turned 18 and was about to graduate from high school, I already knew what was coming. They had paid for Brandon's university and Logan's too. Taylor was a year older than me, and they paid for everything for her, tuition, materials, transportation, whatever was needed. I sat down with my parents one afternoon in the living room to talk about my plan. I brought numbers and options. My dad breathed as if it weighed him down. "Nicole, we have to be honest with you." That is when the blow I had seen coming from a mile away landed. "We have paid for the schooling of 3 children. We do not have enough to pay for another." I was not surprised, honestly. I had spent years saving as much as I could from work, precisely because I knew this was going to happen. But even if you expect it, it still hurts. It hurts because they said it as if it were bad luck, as if the money had simply disappeared on its own and was not a choice they made. My mom, still with her calm smile, finished it off. "But you are very smart and a hard worker. I am sure you will find a way." I swallowed my anger right there. "Yes, thank you, Mom." That last year of high school, I went into intense mode. I already had good grades, but I went above and beyond. I joined every activity that looked good on an application. I tutored math, volunteered, gathered recommendation letters, and did everything possible. I became the perfect candidate for a scholarship, and it worked. I was accepted into a private university with a strong business program in Chicago with a 70% scholarship. But the remaining 30% plus enrollment, books, materials, transportation, and meals was still a lot. My numbers did not add up even if I worked full-time. So I did something that was very hard for me. I called my Aunt Carol. She was my dad's sister. She was always different. She did not have kids and focused on her career. She was doing well. She lived in the western suburbs and rarely came to family gatherings, But when she did, at least she noticed me. That was already a lot. When she answered, I took a deep breath. Aunt Carol, I need to ask you for help with something, and I understand if you say no. I explained everything. The scholarship, what was still missing, and that my parents were not going to contribute. I told her I would pay her back later by bank transfer however I could, and with extra if she wanted. She stayed quiet for a while. I felt my heart in my throat. Then she said quietly but firmly, Nicole, I have seen how they have treated you your whole life. Of course I will help you. Do not pay me back right now. You focus on studying. I broke down right there. I cried on the phone like a little girl because finally someone in that family was supporting me, even just a little. And even so, they ruined that moment for me. I hung up and ran downstairs excitedly to tell my parents that the university situation was resolved. They were in the kitchen with Brandon, who had just finished his degree at a very expensive private university. Outside in the garage was a new car with a red bow, a new car for him. My dad was saying, beaming with pride, "Congratulations, son. You earned it." Brandon was laughing and taking pictures of himself as if he had discovered fire. I just stood there with the news stuck in my mouth. I figured out how to pay for my university, I tried to say. No one listened to me. Then an idea occurred to me, one of those foolish ideas that only come to you at 18 when you are already overwhelmed. Brandon, I said, since you have a new car, could you let me have your old one? It would help me a lot to get to the university. Brandon turned to look at me as if I had asked him for something offensive. Are you serious? Well, yes. It would be useful to me. No way, he said. I am going to sell it. I need that money for the apartment deposit. But I am your sister, I told him, and my voice came out thinner than I wanted. And I was helping you with economics for like 2 years. He laughed. Nicole, take the bus like everyone else. It will be good for you. My parents, instead of saying something, just nodded as if it were the most logical thing in the world. My mom even added her usual line. Public transportation builds character, my love. That night I lay in bed with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how they had just spent a fortune on a car for Brandon. To me, they were selling the idea that building character meant arriving tired and squeezed in after multiple transfers. That is where my last bit of hope died. From that day on, I knew I was truly alone. University was exactly that. Me pushing myself to the limit while the others had support. I kept living with my parents, which meant getting up before 6:30 in the morning and commuting by bus and the L train, whatever it took, to get to the campus in Chicago. If I left early enough, it was manageable. During rush hour, it could take almost 2 hours. I got used to it. What else could I do? I studied business with a focus on investments, and to pay for books and other expenses, I got a job at a coffee shop near campus. There I met Frank, the manager, an older gentleman who did not show off but knew a lot. He adjusted my schedules, let me sit down to study when the place was quiet, and sometimes explain things to me. One day, while I was struggling with an assignment, he told me, I worked in banking for years before opening this place. Then looking at me seriously, he said, You are going to go far, Nicole. It shows. You are hungry. And yes, I was hungry. Hungry for life to give me at least what the others had been handed for free. While my classmates went out on weekends, I was working or studying. I did not have a typical college life. I had goals. Meanwhile, everything at home got weirder. Brandon married his college girlfriend. It was a big wedding as expected. My parents paid for almost everything. Then Logan said he wanted to move in with his girlfriend, and my parents helped him find an apartment and even bought him furniture. Taylor also left later with full support. Even though the three of them no longer lived there, they came back all the time for Sunday lunches, weekday visits, and celebrations. Every time they arrived, my parents lit up as if it were a party. My mom would say shamelessly when they walked in, "My children are here." While I sat at the table with my laptop open, doing homework or reviewing notes, as if I were part of the furniture. I graduated, but it took me longer than most. It was not a neat 4 years. It was 5 because I was working and sometimes had to reduce my course load so I would not burn out. When I finally finished, I graduated with honors and already had a job secured at an international investment firm. At the ceremony, when I walked to the front, my parents clapped, but only lightly, like someone clapping at an event when they are not quite sure whose turn it is. 2 weeks later, they sat me down for a family talk. My dad started with a serious voice. Nicole, you are 23 now. We think it is time for you to find your own place. I just stared at him. Excuse me. You are all grown up now, my mom added. You have always been more mature and self-sufficient. The translation was clear. We never really took care of you, so we are not going to start now. I reminded them that Brandon had stayed longer, that Logan had too, and that Taylor had only recently left. They did not care. They gave me 2 weeks. I found a small studio on the other side of the city. It was tiny, but it was mine. Moving day consisted of just a moving truck and me. My parents did not help or even ask for my new address. I settled in alone as always. After I left, they stopped inviting me to everything. Thanksgiving gatherings, Christmas, birthdays, Easter. Nothing. Not even a message. At first I thought it was an oversight, but it quickly became clear that it was intentional. Meanwhile, Brandon, Logan, and Taylor were in every photo, every celebration, every Instagram story. The first Thanksgiving after I left, I sat in my apartment eating Chinese takeout while watching on my phone as they laughed together at the big table, as if I had never existed. It hurt more than I wanted to admit. The following year, I decided to show up anyway. I bought a simple store-bought cake and drove to my parents' house in my little used car. A basic one I had bought as soon as I started working full-time. It was nothing fancy, but it had finally gotten me off the bus. When I arrived, everyone was there. Brandon with his wife Rachel, Logan with his girlfriend Brittany, Taylor with her boyfriend Kevin, and my parents around the table. When I walked in, there was silence. My mom looked at me as if a stranger had entered. Nicole, we were not expecting you. I held up the box. I brought cake. My dad said, "Oh, that is nice." I sat down and it felt like sitting at someone else's table. They talked over me and around me without really including me. Brandon spoke about his promotion, Logan about his master's degree, and Taylor about an exhibition. When someone did address me, it was with fake politeness, as if I were a neighbor who had stopped by accident. Taylor, with a tight smile, asked, "And how is your little apartment?" "Good," I answered. Logan, with his usual talent for poking at sore spots, asked, "And are you still getting around by bus?" Brandon let out a small laugh. My parents stayed quiet and let it pass. I helped clear the table, said thank you, and left. No one stopped me. No one asked when we would see each other again. That was the last day I showed up uninvited. After that, they never reached out. Not even once. I did not reach out either. Just like that, we simply stopped existing in each other's lives. More than a couple of years went by like that, with no calls. I threw myself completely into work. I did well. I was promoted twice. I paid Aunt Carol back every dollar she had helped me with, plus extra, because she had changed my life. With the second promotion, I traded in my used car for a luxury one, the kind that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not to show off, but because for the first time I could choose something just for myself. I also bought an apartment in a good area of Chicago with a mortgage, but it was mine. I traveled to Europe a couple of times. I was building a life I actually enjoyed. Then one afternoon my cell phone rang. It was my mom. "Nicole," she said, as if we had eaten breakfast together the day before. "Listen, your great Aunt Evelyn is coming this weekend. She is turning 90 and wants to see the whole family together. You have to be here on Saturday at 6 for dinner." Great Aunt Evelyn. I barely remembered her. A very old lady who lived in California and used to send birthday cards when I was a girl. I started to say, "I do not think I can." "This is not optional," she cut me off. "She asked to see all of us. Do not make us look bad." Then she hung up. I stood there looking at my phone with a cold anger. Years without speaking to me, and now they wanted me to show up and pretend we were a happy family for a visitor. My first impulse was to ignore them. But then I thought about how much my life had changed since that last painful gathering. I was no longer the same person begging for a seat at that table. Suddenly I felt like going, not out of nostalgia or love, but to see the look on their faces when they realized who I had become. Saturday arrived. I took way too long choosing what to wear. I wanted to look good, but not like I was trying too hard. In the end, I chose a simple, discreet black dress and small pieces of jewelry, all of good quality but nothing flashy. My car would make its appearance when I decided. I left with plenty of time. Even though it was Saturday, traffic could still be heavy, and I was not going to rush. I parked in a nearby shopping center and walked the last few blocks, about 10 minutes. I wanted to control the moment. Arriving at the house felt extremely strange. I saw Brandon's car, Logan's car, and Taylor's or her boyfriend's. Everything looked normal. I knocked. My dad opened the door, and for a brief second I saw genuine surprise on his face. Then the practiced smile appeared. "Nicole, you did come." He gave me an awkward, tight hug. Come in, come in. Everyone is very happy to see you." The living room was full. Great Aunt Evelyn was tiny and very old, sitting in my dad's armchair like a queen. She had a sharp look behind her thick glasses. Brandon was there with Rachel. Logan was with Brittany. Taylor was with Kevin, the boyfriend who had become part of the family over the years. My mom announced dramatically, "Look who arrived," as if I were a surprise guest and not her daughter whom they had demanded to come. Great Aunt Evelyn looked at me, squinting. "This is the little one, Nicole." I smiled. "Yes, Great Aunt. Wow, you are a full-grown woman now." We moved to the dining room. They seated me at the far end of the table between Logan and Taylor, while Great Aunt Evelyn sat next to my parents in the place of honor. Dinner began, and as usual, my parents began bragging. Brandon had gotten a promotion. Logan was about to finish his master's degree. Taylor had presented her artwork somewhere. My mom said, almost singing, "We are very proud of our children. All three have done so well." I breathed slowly. My siblings started their usual subtle game, but with smiles so the great aunt would not notice. Taylor, in a sweet voice, said, "I love your dress, Nicole. Very simple, very minimalist. I guess that is how it is worn now." It was her way of implying it looked cheap. I simply replied, "Thank you." Logan chimed in as if it were an innocent joke. "Hey Nicole, I saw you arrived walking. Are you still getting around by bus?" Brandon laughed. "I remember when she asked me for my car. Do you guys remember?" Logan added happily, "Yes. And our parents told her that public transportation built character." They chuckled quietly. Even my parents smiled, as if that story were funny and not one of the most unfair things they had ever done to me. I kept eating calmly. Inside I did not feel sadness. I felt a strange sense of calm, as if I was finally seeing them exactly as they were. There they were with their small egos still mocking something from years ago as if it gave them value. Great Aunt Evelyn had been quiet for most of the dinner, just observing. Suddenly she turned to me. "Nicole, my child, I have heard a lot about your brothers and sister, but no one has told me what you do for a living." There was a heavy silence. I felt all eyes on me. I answered simply without any embellishment. "I work in investments at Goldman Sachs." My dad's face changed as he tried to process the information. My mom froze with her fork halfway to her mouth. My siblings no longer knew whether to continue their mocking or swallow their pride. Great Aunt Evelyn lifted her chin slightly. "Oh wow. That is very impressive, my child. Very impressive." I nodded. "I am doing well." The rest of the dinner became awkward. My siblings no longer dared to make jokes. My parents exchanged nervous glances, and Great Aunt Evelyn began asking me thoughtful questions. When dinner ended, I helped clear the table, but now everyone looked at me differently, as if I had suddenly become someone else. I checked my watch. "Well, Great Aunt Evelyn, it was nice seeing you. I have to leave now. I need to wake up early tomorrow." "Of course, my child. I loved seeing you. I hope you visit me." My parents stood up immediately. "We will walk you out," my mom said with that fake cheerfulness she used when she wanted to control appearances. The whole group came out with me. My parents, Brandon and Rachel, Logan and Brittany, Taylor and Kevin, walking together as if we were the perfect family. I knew what they expected, that I would walk to the corner and wait for the bus, confirming their old image of me. But instead I walked straight to my car. The silence was immediate and heavy. I took out my key fob, unlocked the doors, and the clear sound of the locks clicking echoed on the quiet street. I got in, started the engine, and pulled forward slowly to where they stood frozen on the grass like statues. I rolled down the window. My dad had gone pale. He opened his mouth several times before words came out. "That car costs over $200,000. He finally managed to say. My mom put her hand to her chest, genuinely shocked. Taylor turned white. Brandon and Logan stared with an ugly mix of surprise and envy. I smiled calmly. Yes. And that is considering you have not even seen my apartment. I rolled up the window and drove away. In the rearview mirror I saw them standing there motionless, as if their world had suddenly stopped. That was the best Saturday night I had had in years. The next day I woke up feeling light, as if a heavy weight had been lifted. I made myself a nice breakfast, put on my running clothes and went for a run in Lincoln Park as I do almost every weekend. It was early, the air was fresh, and the city still felt peaceful. Halfway through my run my phone started vibrating non-stop. First my mom, then my dad, then Brandon, then Logan, then Taylor. One after another. I did not answer any of them. I kept running. Afterward I went to a cafe near the park and ordered a latte. I sat there peacefully watching people pass by. When I finally checked my phone, there were more than 20 missed calls and many messages. And they were all from a different world. Suddenly they were polite and affectionate. My mom wrote, "Nicole, my love, we have to see each other. We need to catch up." Taylor, "I would love to see your apartment." "Hey sister, I have been thinking we should spend more time together. Let's go out sometime. Actually, I want to see your place." Brandon, "Hi Nicole. So nice to see you yesterday. Your job sounds impressive. We should grab lunch one day and chat." Logan, "Nicole, I did not know you were doing so well. Honestly, I would be glad for us to stay in touch." Even my dad, "Nicole, your mom and I are proud of you. We should have dinner soon." I did not reply to any of them. I ordered another coffee and sat there feeling something I had never quite felt before. 2 weeks passed, and the messages kept coming, becoming more and more insistent. My mom left tearful voice notes saying they missed me, and that they had always known I was special. Brandon began asking questions about investments, as if my career was now a family resource. Taylor hinted at a sister's trip to some expensive destination, as if that could erase years of indifference. I deleted all of it. One afternoon as I was leaving work, I saw them waiting in the parking lot next to my car. It was my parents. My mom raised her hand as if she had been waiting to give me a ride home. "Nicole." I let out a breath, not wanting to cause a scene in public. "There is a cafe across the street. Let's go there." We walked in silence. I ordered my usual drink. They ordered black coffee. We sat down and I looked at them calmly, waiting for the real reason. I was no longer buying their words. My mom began with a sweet voice. "We want you to know how proud we are of you. You were always very independent and focused. We knew you would make it." I almost laughed, not because it was funny but because of the sheer audacity. Then she continued, "We know we made mistakes when you were younger, but we want to make it right. We want you to be part of the family again." I stayed quiet, and then it came. My mom nervously adjusted her purse. "Look, Brandon and Rachel are thinking about having a big celebration. And Taylor has been with Kevin for years. It looks like it will happen for her soon too." My dad cleared his throat. "Weddings are expensive. And since you are doing so well, we thought you could help." I stared at them. "Help how?" My mom smiled as if she were suggesting something wonderful. "With part of the expenses. It would be a way to reconnect and show that you want to be with us." That is when I laughed. I let out a real laugh that made other people in the cafe turn around. I wiped away a tear, not from sadness but from pure anger and disbelief. "So let me understand this," I said, lowering my voice. "You want me to pay for Brandon's wedding and Taylor's wedding to earn my place in a family that asked me to leave, ignored me for years, and only remembered me when they saw that I have money?" My parents shifted uncomfortably. My mom tried. "It is not like that." "Yes, it is exactly like that." I cut her off calmly. I leaned forward slightly. "You did not come here for me. You came for my wallet." My mom froze. I continued without raising my voice. "The saddest part is that you now say you always knew I would be successful. If that were true, you would have treated me well when I was a girl. You would have supported me the same way you supported Brandon, Logan, and Taylor. You would have invited me to the table instead of leaving me alone on important days." My mom's eyes were already filled with tears. "We made a mistake, but we can fix it." I shook my head slowly. "No, you cannot. Because I do not want to fix it. I stood up, picked up my purse and said the last words without raising my voice. I spent my whole life trying to earn the affection of people who never wanted to give it to me. I am not going to pay for love anymore. Not anymore. I walked out of the cafe and left. In the following months they tried a little longer with calls, messages and occasional voice notes, until they finally gave up. Aunt Carol later told me that Brandon did get married, but the celebration was much smaller and simpler than what they had originally planned when they hoped to use my money. I continued with my life. I kept working hard, earned another promotion and got a better office. I traveled when I could, and I started dating Michael, a man who works in technology and is not intimidated by an independent woman. In fact, he respects it. Sometimes people ask me if I miss having a family, and my answer is no. Because you cannot miss something you never truly had. They never saw me as someone to love. They saw me as a burden when I had nothing and as an ATM when they thought I had enough. Today I am 30 years old. I live in a beautiful apartment in Chicago. I drive a car that most people only see in pictures. But the most important thing is not the car or the apartment. The most important thing is that I am surrounded by people who genuinely love me for who I am. I do not need the approval of those who let go of my hand the moment it was convenient for them. I only need the approval of those who stayed with me. I grew up believing that affection had to be earned by enduring, proving myself, and staying quiet so I would not bother anyone. It took me many years to understand that real love does not make you compete, does not charge an admission fee, and does not appear only when there is something to gain. What I learned the hard way is that you can build a dignified and fulfilling life, even if you were once denied a seat at your own table. And that setting healthy boundaries is not coldness. It is self-care. Comment. Hey everyone, this one really made me stop and think for a while. I've learned that protecting our self-worth isn't selfish. It's essential. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for ourselves is to set firm but healthy boundaries. Healing often starts when we take responsibility for our own peace instead of waiting for others to change. You don't have to keep proving your value to anyone who refuses to see it. Choosing calm over constant struggle has been one of the most powerful decisions I've ever made. Be gentle with yourself as you navigate these lessons. Surrounding yourself with people who genuinely respect and care for you is possible. I hope you take a quiet moment today to reflect on what you truly need in your relationships. Remember, you are worthy of love that doesn't have to be earned through pain. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.